This is the Relativity Series from LA Theater Works and the Alfred P. Sloan Foundation, bridging science and the arts in the modern world.
I'm Susan Loewenberg.
When I was a small boy, I wanted to be a pirate and so on. The one thing I never wanted to be was to be a writer. And the reason was that I was a born writer.
That's the voice of George Bernard Shaw, one of the greatest and most controversial playwrights of the 20th century. Shaw was never shy on social issues, and over the course of more than 60 plays, he advocated for human rights, women's suffrage, socialized medicine, and the betterment of the working class. But if Shaw's plays could be didactic, they were also wickedly funny, and his well-aimed satire continues to resonate in the present day, including our story this week, The Doctor's Dilemma. Written in 1906, the play raises a question that's relevant in any era. In a society where proper medical care is a privilege, not a right, how do we decide who deserves treatment and who does not? And now, LA Theater Works presents The Doctor's Dilemma by George Bernard Shaw, starring Roy Dotrice, Paxton Whitehead, Martin Jarvis, and Simon Templeman.
There's a lady bothering me to see the doctor.
Well, she can't see the doctor. Look here, Emmy, what's the use of telling you that the doctor can't take any new patients when the moment a knock comes to the door, in you bounce to ask whether he can see somebody?
I said there's a lady bothering me to see the doctor. That isn't asking, it's telling.
Well, is that a reason for you to come bothering me when I'm busy?
Have you seen the papers?
No.
Not seen the birthday honours?
What do you suppose I care about the birthday honours? Now get out of this with your chattering. Dr. Ridgeon will be down before I have these letters ready. Get out!
Dr. Ridgeon won't never be down any more, young man.
What?
He's been made a knight. Mind you don't go Dr. Ridgeoning him in them letters. Sir Colenso Ridgeon is to be his name now.
I'm jolly glad.
I never was so taken aback. I always thought his great discoveries was fudge, let alone the mess of them, with his drops of blood and tubes full of Maltese fever and the like. Whew, now you'll have a rare laugh at me.
It'll serve you right. It was like your cheek to talk to him about science.
Oh, I don't think much of science. What's on my mind is answering the door. Old Sir Patrick Cullen has been here already and left first congratulations. Hadn't time to come up on his way to the hospital. Coming back, he said. All the rest will be here too. That knocker will be going all day. What I'm afraid of is that the doctor will want a footman like all the rest, now that he's Sir Colenso. Mind, don't you go putting him up to it, ducky. I know who to let in and who to keep out. Oh, and that reminds me of the poor lady. I think he ought to see her. She's just the kind that puts him in a good temper.
I tell you, he can't see anybody. Emmy, do go away. How can I work with you dusting all over me like this?
I'm not hindering you working, if you call writing letters working. Oh, there goes the bell. That's more congratulations. Oh, there you are. Have you finished your 2 eggs, Sonny?
Yes, I have.
Have you put on your clean vest?
Oh, yes.
That's my ducky diamond. Now keep yourself tidy and don't go messing about and dirtying your hands. The people are coming to congratulate you.
Have you seen the papers, Redpenny? You'll have to alter my name in the letters if you haven't.
Emmy has just told me I'm awfully glad
Enough, young man, enough. You'll soon get accustomed to it.
They ought to have done it years ago.
Well, they would have, only they couldn't stand Emmy opening the door, I dare say.
Old Paddy Cullen was here before you were up to be the first to congratulate him.
Indeed. Who taught you to speak of Sir Patrick Cullen as Old Paddy Cullen, you young ruffian?
But you never call him anything else.
Well, not now that I'm Sir Colenso. Next thing you fellows will be calling me Old Collie Ridgeon.
Well, we do, at St. Anne's.
Ah, that's what makes the medical student the most disgusting figure in modern civilization. No veneration, no manners, no...
Sir Patrick Cullen.
Ah, well, Well, young chap, is your hat too small for you now, eh?
Much too small. I owe it all to you.
Oh, blarney, my boy. Thank you all the same. I've come to talk to you a bit. Young man, get out.
Certainly, Sir Patrick.
Thank you, that's a good lad. Well, they all put up with me, these young chaps, because I'm an old man. A real old man, not like you. You're only beginning to give yourself the airs of age. But you know, the world's growing very interesting to me now, Collie. Modern science is a wonderful thing. Look at your great discovery. Look at all the great discoveries. Where are they leading to? Why, right back to my poor, dear old father's ideas and discoveries. He's been dead now over 40 years.
Well, there's nothing like progress, is there?
Don't misunderstand me, my boy. I'm not belittling your discovery. Most discoveries are made regularly every 15 years, and it's fully 150 since yours was made last. You've brought us back to inoculation.
I know nothing about smallpox. My line is tuberculosis and typhoid and plague. But of course, the principle of all vaccines is the same.
Tuberculosis? Oh, yes. You've found out how to cure consumption, eh?
I believe so.
Well, I've known over 30 men that found out how to cure consumption. Why do people go on dying of it, Collie? Devilment, I suppose.
You old cynic, you don't believe a bit in my discovery.
No, I don't go quite so far as that, Collie. But still, you remember Jane Marsh?
Jane Marsh? No.
You mean to tell me you don't remember that woman with the tuberculous ulcer on her arm?
Oh, your washerwoman's daughter. It was her name, Jane Marsh, I forgot.
Well, perhaps you've forgotten also that you undertook to cure her with cautious tuberculin.
And instead of curing her, it rotted her arm right off. Yes, I remember. Poor Jane. However, she makes a good living out of that arm now by showing it at medical lectures.
Still, that wasn't quite what you intended, was it?
Well, I found out that the inoculation that ought to cure sometimes kills.
Oh, I could have told you that. I've tried these modern inoculations a bit myself. I've killed people with them. Oh, and I've cured people with them. But I gave them up because I could never tell which I was going to do.
Read that the next time you have an hour to spare and you'll find out why.
What's this? Bother your pamphlets. What's the practice of it? Opsonin. What the devil is opsonin?
Opsonin is what you butter the disease germs with to make your white blood corpuscles eat them.
That's not new. I've heard this notion that the white corpuscles, what is that? What's his name? Metchnikoff calls them...
Phagocytes.
Phagocytes, yes. Yes. Well, I heard this theory that the phagocytes eat up the disease germs years ago, long before you came into fashion. Besides, they don't always eat them.
They do when you butter them with opsonin.
Gammon.
No, it's not gammon. What it comes to in practice is this. The phagocytes won't eat the microbes unless the microbes are nicely buttered for them. Well, the patient manufactures the butter for himself, all right, but my discovery is that the manufacture of that butter, which I call opsonin, goes on in the system by ups and downs, nature being always rhythmical, you know, and that what the inoculation does is to stimulate the ups and downs, as the case may be. Now, if we had inoculated Jane Marsh when her butter factory was on the upgrade, we should have cured her arm. But we got in on the downgrade and lost her arm for her. I call the upgrade the positive phase and the downgrade the negative phase. Everything depends on your inoculating at the right moment. Inoculate when the patient's in the negative phase and you kill. Inoculate when the patient's in the positive phase and you cure.
And pray, how are you to know whether the patient is in the positive or the negative phase?
Send a drop of the patient's blood to the laboratory at St. Anne's, and in 15 minutes I'll give you his opsonin index in figures. My tuberculosis patients don't die now.
And mine do when my inoculation catches them in the negative phase, as you call it.
Precisely.
Eh?
To inject a vaccine into a patient without first testing his opsonin is as near murder as a respectable practitioner can get. If I wanted to kill a man, I should kill him that way.
Will you see a lady that wants her husband's lungs cured?
No, haven't I told you? I'll see nobody. Don't come to me again about people who have no appointments.
Well, I'll tell her to wait a bit.
You'll tell her I can't see her and send her away.
Well, will you see Mr. Cutler Walpole? He don't want a cure, he only wants to congratulate you.
Of course, show him up. No, stop. Sir Paddy, I want 2 minutes more with you between ourselves. Emmy, ask Mr. Walpole to wait just 2 minutes while I finish a consultation.
Oh, he'll wait all right. He's talking to the poor lady.
Well, what is it?
Don't laugh at me. I want your advice.
Professional advice?
Yes, there's something the matter with me. I have a curious aching. I don't know where. I can't localize it. Sometimes I think it's my heart. Sometimes I suspect my spine. I feel that something is going to happen. And there are other symptoms. Scraps of tunes come into my head that seem to me very pretty, though they're quite commonplace.
Do you hear voices?
No.
Well, I'm glad of that.
You think I'm mad?
No. It's a very common condition between the ages of 17 and 22. It sometimes comes up again at 40 or thereabouts. You're a bachelor, you see. It's not serious if you're careful.
What, about my food?
No, about your behavior. There's nothing wrong with your spine, but as for your heart, well, I'm not so sure. You may be going to make a fool of yourself, so be careful.
I see you don't believe in my discovery. Well, sometimes I don't believe in it myself. Thank you all the same. Shall I ring for Walpole?
Oh, all right, have him up. He's a clever operator, is Walpole, though he's only one of your chloroform surgeons. In my early days, you made your man drunk, and the porters and students held him down, and you had to set your teeth and finish the job fast. Nowadays, you work at your ease, and the pain doesn't come until afterwards when you take your check.
Oh, Emmy, show Mr. Walpole up.
He's talking to the lady.
Did I not tell you? Oh.
Well, I know your Cutler Walpoles and their like. They found out that a man's body is full of bits and scraps of old organs he has no mortal use for. Thanks to chloroform, you can cut half a dozen of them out without leaving him any the worse. Cutler himself has worked hard at anatomy to find something fresh to operate on. And at last, he got hold of something he calls the nuciform sac.
A nuciform sac.
Which has made quite the fashion. People pay him 500 guineas to cut it out. They might as well get their hair cut for all the difference it makes. But I suppose they feel important after it. You can't go out to dinner now without your neighbour bragging to you of some useless operation or other.
Mr. Cutler Walpole.
My dear Ridgeon, best wishes, heartiest congratulations. You deserve it.
Thank you.
As a man, mind you. You deserve it as a man. The opsonin is simple rot, as any capable surgeon can tell you. But we're all delighted to see your personal qualities officially recognised. Sir Patrick, how are you?
Yeah.
I sent you a paper lately about a little thing I invented, a new saw for shoulder blades.
Yes, I got it. It's a good saw. A useful, handy instrument.
I knew you'd see its point.
Yes. I remember that saw 65 years ago.
What?
It was called a cabinet maker's jimmy then.
Get out nonsense, cabinet makers.
Never mind him, Walpole. He's jealous.
Oh, by the way, I hope I'm not disturbing you two in anything private.
No, sit down. I was only consulting him. I'm rather out of sorts. Overwork, I suppose.
I know what's the matter with you. I can see it in your complexion. I can feel it in the grip of your hand.
What is it?
Blood poisoning.
Blood poisoning? Impossible.
No, I tell you, blood poisoning. Now, 95% of the human race suffer from chronic blood poisoning and die of it. It's as simple as ABC. You see, your nuciform sac is full of decaying matter, undigested food and waste products, rank ptomaines. Now, you take my advice, Ridgeon, and let me cut it out for you. You'll be another man afterwards.
Don't you like him as he is?
No, I don't. I don't like any man who hasn't a healthy circulation.
And have you had your own sac removed, may I ask?
I haven't got one. Look at me. I've no symptoms. I'm as sound as a bell. About 5% of the population haven't got any, and I'm one of the 5%. I'll give you an instance. You know Mrs. Jack Fulljam, the smart Mrs. Fulljam? I operated at Easter on her sister-in-law, Lady Gorham, and found she had the biggest sack I ever saw. Held about 2 ounces. Well, Mrs. Fulljam had the right spirit, the genuine hygienic instinct, and she couldn't stand her sister-in-law being a clean, sound woman, and she simply a whited sepulchre. So she insisted on my operating on her too. And by George, sir, she hadn't any sack at all. Not a trace, not a rudiment. But I was so taken aback, I was so interested, that I forgot to take the sponges out, and I was stitching them up inside her when the nurse missed them. Somehow, I was sure she'd have an exceptionally large one.
Sir Rafe Bloomfield Bonington.
Ah, well, where is he?
Drat him. I thought he was following me. He stayed down to talk to that lady.
I told you to tell that lady.
Oh, by the way, Ridgeon, that reminds me. I've been talking to that poor girl. It's her husband. And she thinks it's a case of consumption. It's the usual wrong diagnosis. These damned general practitioners ought never to be allowed to touch a patient except under the orders of a consultant. Anyway, she's been describing his symptoms to me, and the case is as plain as a pikestaff, is bad blood poisoning. Now, she's poor. She can't afford to have him operated on. Well, you send him to me, I'll do it for nothing. I'll put him straight and feed him up and make her happy. I like making people happy.
Here he is.
Aha! Sir Colenso, Sir Colenso, eh? Welcome to the Order of Knighthood.
Thank you, B.B.
What, Sir Patrick? How are we today? A little chilly, a little stiff, but hail and still the cleverest of us all.
Ah, rubbish.
What? Walpole, the absent-minded beggar, eh?
What does that mean?
Have you forgotten the lovely opera singer I sent you to have that growth taken off her vocal cords?
Oh, great heavens, man. You don't mean to say you sent her for a throat operation.
You removed her nuciform sac. Well, force of habit. Never mind. She got back her voice after it and thinks you're the greatest surgeon alive. And so you are.
Tell me, and how is a certain distinguished family getting on under your care, Sir Reef?
Our friend Ridgeon will be gratified to hear that I've tried his opsonin treatment on little Prince Henry with complete success.
But how?
I suspected typhoid. The head gardener's boy had it. So I just called at St. Anne's one day and got a tube of your very excellent serum. You were out, unfortunately.
I hope they explained to you
Oh,
carefully.
Lord bless you, my dear fellow. I didn't need any explanations. I'd left my wife in the carriage at the door, and I'd no time to be taught my business by your young chaps. I know all about it. I handle these antitoxins ever since they first came out.
But they're not antitoxins, and they're dangerous unless you use them at the right time.
Well, of course they are. Everything is dangerous unless you take it at the right time. An apple at breakfast does you good. An apple at bedtime upsets you for a week. There are only two rules for antitoxins. First, don't be afraid of them. Second, inject them a quarter of an hour before meals 3 times a day.
Great heavens, B.B., no.
Yes, Collie. The proof of the pudding is in the eating, you know. It was an immense success. It acted like magic on the little prince. Up went his temperature, off to bed I packed him, and in a week he was all right again, and absolutely immune from typhoid for the rest of his life. The family were very nice about it. Their gratitude was quite touching. But I said they owed it all to you, Ridgeon, and I'm glad to think that your knighthood is the result.
I'm deeply obliged to you.
Not at all. Your own merit.
Oh.
Come, don't give way.
No, it's nothing. I was a little giddy just now. Overwork, I suppose.
Blood poisoning.
Overwork? There's no such thing. I do the work of 10 men. Am I giddy? No. If you're not well, you have a disease. It may be a slight one, but it's a disease. And what is a disease? The lodgement in the system of a pathogenic germ and the multiplication of that germ. What is the remedy? A simple one. Find the germ and kill it.
Dr. Blinkensop.
How are you, Blinkensop?
I've come to offer my humble congratulations.
How do you do, Blinkensop? How do you do?
Oh, dear. All the great guns are before me. This is the first time I've had that honour. In my poor little practice, there are no chances of meeting you great men. I know nobody but the St. Anne's men of my own day. And so, you're Sir Colenso. How does it feel?
Foolish at first. Don't take any notice of it.
I'm ashamed to say I haven't a notion of what your great discovery is, but I congratulate you all the same, for the sake of old times.
But, my dear Blinkensop, you used to be rather keen on science.
I used to be a lot of things. I used to have 2 or 3 decent suits of clothes and flannels to go up the river on Sundays. Look at me now. This is my best, and it must last till Christmas. What can I do? I've never opened a book since I was qualified 30 years ago. I've forgotten all my science. What's the use of my pretending I haven't? But I have great experience, clinical experience, and bedside experience is the main thing, isn't it?
No doubt. Always provided, mind you, that you have a sound scientific theory to correlate your observations at the bedside. Mere experience by itself is nothing. If I take my dog to the bedside with me, he sees what I see, but he learns nothing from it. And why? Because he's not a scientific dog.
You know, it amuses me to hear you physicians and general practitioners talk about clinical experience. You see, I've been a surgeon and a consultant for 20 years, and I've never known a general practitioner right in his diagnosis yet. Now, you bring them a perfectly simple case, and they diagnose cancer and arthritis and appendicitis and every other itis, when any really experienced surgeon can see that it's a plain case of blood poisoning.
It's easy for you gentlemen to talk, but what would you say if you had my practice? My patients are all clerks and shopmen. They daren't be ill. They can't afford it. And when they break down, what can I do for them? You can send your people to St. Moritz or to Egypt, or recommend horse exercise, or motoring, or champagne jelly, or complete change and rest for 6 months. I might as well order my people a slice of the moon. And the worst of it is, I'm too poor to keep well myself. All the cooking I have to put up with, I have such a wretched digestion, and I look it. How am I to inspire confidence?
Don't, Blinkensop, don't. It's too painful. Oh. The most tragic thing in the world is a sick doctor.
Yes, by George. It's like a bald-headed man trying to sell a hair restorer. Thank God I'm a surgeon.
I am never sick. Never had a day's illness in my life. That's what enables me to sympathize with my patients.
What, you're never ill?
Never.
Oh, that's interesting. I believe you have no nuciform sac. Now, if you ever do feel at all queer, I should very much like to have a look.
Thank you, my dear fellow, but I'm too busy just now.
I was just telling them when you came in, Blinkensop, that I've worked myself out of sorts.
Well, it seems presumptuous of me to offer a prescription to a great man like you, but still, I have great experience, and if I might recommend a pound of ripe green gages every day, half an hour before lunch, I'm sure you'd find a benefit. They're very cheap.
What do you say to that, BB?
Very sensible, Blinkensop, very sensible indeed. I'm delighted to see that you disapprove of drugs.
Puppet.
Did I hear from the far side armchair the bow-wow of the old school defending its drugs? Drugs can only repress symptoms. They cannot eradicate disease. The true remedy for all diseases is nature's remedy. Nature has provided, in the white corpuscles, as you call them, in the phagocytes, as we call them, a natural means of devouring and destroying all disease germs. Stimulate the phagocytes. Drugs are a delusion.
As I sit here, I seem to hear my poor old father talking again. You see, BB, in the privacy of our family circle, my father used to declare his belief that smallpox inoculation was good, not only for smallpox, but for all fevers.
What? Regent, did you hear that?
Yes.
Sir Patrick, your father, sir, anticipated a discovery of my own. Listen, Walpole, Blinkensop, attend one moment. I was put on the track by accident. I had a typhoid case and a tetanus case, side by side in the hospital, a beadle and a city missionary. Think of what that meant for them, poor fellows. Can a beadle be dignified with typhoid? Can a missionary be eloquent with lockjaw? No. Well, I got some typhoid antitoxin from Ridgeon and a tube of Muldooley's anti-tetanus serum. But the missionary jerked all my things off the table in one of his paroxysms, and in replacing them, I put Ridgeon's tube where Muldooley's ought to have been. The consequence was that I inoculated the typhoid case for tetanus and the tetanus case for typhoid. Well, they recovered. They recovered. Except for a touch of St. Vitus's dance, the missionary's as well today as ever. And the beadle's 10 times the man he was. Ever since then, I've used all sorts of antitoxins absolutely indiscriminately. With perfectly satisfactory results. That is why Sir Patrick's father found that inoculation cured all fevers. It stimulated the phagocytes.
Mr. Walpole, your motor's come for you and it's frightening Sir Patrick's horses, so come along quick.
Goodbye, Regent.
Goodbye, and many thanks.
You see my point, Walpole?
He can't wait, Sir Rafe. The carriage will be into the basement if he don't come.
I'm coming. There's nothing in your point, BB. Phagocytosis is pure rot. The cases are all blood poisoning, and the knife is the real remedy. Bye-bye, Sir Paddy. Happy to have met you, Mr. Blinkensop. Now, Emmy, come along.
Walpole has no intellect, a mere surgeon. Wonderful operator, but after all, what is operating? Only manual labour. Brain remains the master of the situation. Well, I must be toddling. Goodbye, Paddy. Goodbye. Goodbye, my dear Blinkensop. Goodbye, Ridgeon. Don't fret about your health. If you feel restless, try bromide. If that doesn't answer, a stimulant, you know. A little phosphorus and strychnine.
Aha, but no drugs, Cully. Remember that.
Certainly not. Quite right, Sir Patrick. As temporary expedients, of course. But as treatment, no. Keep away from the chemist's shop, my dear Ridgeon, whatever you do.
I will. Oh, and thank you for the knighthood. Goodbye.
Oh, by the way, who's your patient?
Who?
Downstairs, charming woman. Tuberculous husband.
Is she there still?
Come on, Sir Rafe. Your wife's waiting in the carriage.
Oh, goodbye.
Emmy, is that woman there still? If so, tell her once for all that I can't and won't see her. Do you hear?
Oh, she ain't in a hurry. She doesn't mind how long she waits.
I must be off too. Every half hour I spend away from my work costs me 18 pence. Goodbye, Sir Patrick.
Goodbye.
Come to lunch with me someday this week, Blinkensop.
I can't afford it, dear boy, and it would put me off my own food for a week. Thank you all the same.
Well, can I do nothing for you?
Yeah, well, if you have an old frock coat to spare. You see, what would be an old one for you would be a new one for me. So, remember me the next time you turn out your wardrobe. Goodbye.
Poor chap. So, that's why they made me a knight. And that's the medical profession.
And a very good profession too, my lad. When you know as much as I know of the ignorance and superstition of the patients, you'll wonder we're half as good as we are.
We're not a profession, we're a conspiracy.
All professions are conspiracies against the laity. And we can't all be geniuses like you. Every fool can get ill, but every fool can't be a good doctor. There are not enough good ones to go round. And for all you know, Bloomfield Bonington kills less people than you do.
Oh, yeah, very likely. But he really ought to know the difference between a vaccine and an antitoxin. Stimulate the phagocytes. The vaccine doesn't affect the phagocytes at all. He's all wrong, hopelessly, dangerously wrong. To put a tube of serum into his hands is murder. It's simple murder.
Now, Sir Patrick, how long are you going to keep them horses standing in the draft?
What's that to you, you old catamaran?
Come now, none of your temper to me, and it's time for Collie to get to his work.
Behave yourself, Emmy. Get out.
Oh, I learnt how to behave myself before I learnt you to do it. I know what doctors are, sitting talking together about themselves when they ought to be with their poor patients. And I know what horses are, Sir Patrick. I was brought up in the country. Now be good and come along.
Very well. Goodbye, Cully.
Bye.
Emmy, you are an ugly old devil and no mistake.
Oh, you're no beauty yourself. They've no manners. They think they can say what they like to me, and you set them on, you do. I'll teach them their places. Here now, are you going to see that poor thing, or are you not?
I tell you for the 50th time, I won't see anybody send her away.
Come now, just see her for a minute to please me. There's a good boy. She's given me £5,000. She thinks it's life and death to her husband for her to see you.
Values her husband's life at £5,000.
Well, it's all she can afford, poor lamb. And she's the sort that gets round you. You'll see her for me, won't you?
Oh, send her up and be hanged.
There's my ducky diamond.
I say, Redpenny.
What is it?
There's a patient coming up. If she hasn't gone in 5 minutes, come in with an urgent call from the hospital for me.
Righto.
Mrs. Doobie-Dad.
Doctor, you must save my husband.
Wait. Before you begin, let me tell you at once that I can do nothing for you. My hands are full. I cannot undertake another case.
Doctor, you must save my husband. You must. When I explain to you, you will see that you must. It is not an ordinary case. Not like any other case. He is not like anybody else in the world. Oh, believe me, he is not. I can prove it to you. I have brought some things to show you. And you can save him. The papers say you can.
And what's the matter? Tuberculosis?
Yes, his left lung.
Yes, you needn't tell me about that.
You can cure him if only you will. It is true that you can, isn't it? Oh, tell me, please.
You are going to be quiet and self-possessed, aren't you?
Yes. I beg your pardon. I know I shouldn't. Oh, please say that you can, and then I shall be all right.
I'm not a cure monger. If you want cures, you must go to the people who sell them. But I have at the hospital 10 tuberculous patients whose lives I believe I can save.
Thank God.
Wait a moment. My laboratory, my staff, and myself are working at full pressure. We are doing our utmost. The treatment is a new one. It takes time, money, and skill, and there is not enough for another case. Our 10 cases are already chosen cases. Do you understand what I mean by chosen?
Chosen? No, I can't understand.
You've got to understand and to face it. In every single one of those 10 cases, I've had to consider not only whether the man could be saved, but whether he was worth saving.
Oh.
I've no doubt your case is a hard one. I can see the tears in your eyes. I know that you have a torrent of entreaties ready for me the moment I stop speaking, but it's no use. You must go to another doctor.
But can you give me the name of another doctor who understands your secret?
I have no secret. I'm not a quack.
I beg your pardon. I didn't mean to say anything wrong. I don't understand how to speak to you. Oh, pray don't be offended.
No, never mind. After all, I'm talking nonsense. I dare say I am a quack. A quack with a qualification. But my discovery is not patented.
Well, then can any doctor cure my husband? Oh, why don't they do it? I have tried so many. I have spent so much. If only you would give me the name of another doctor.
Every man in this street is a doctor. But outside myself and the handful of men I'm training at St. Anne's, there is nobody as yet who has mastered the opsonin treatment. And we are full up. I'm sorry, but that is all I can say. Good morning.
Doctor, look at these. You understand drawings. You have good ones in your waiting room. Look at them. They are his work.
It's no use my looking. Oh. Hello. Yes, this is the real thing. Oh, yes. These are very clever. They're unfinished, aren't they?
He gets tired so soon. But you see, don't you, what a genius he is. You see that he is worth saving. Oh, Doctor, I married him just to help him to begin. I had money enough to tide him over the hard years at the beginning, to enable him to follow his inspiration until his genius was recognized. And I was useful to him as a model. His drawings of me sold quite quickly.
Have you got one?
Only this one. It was the first.
Thank you. That is a wonderful drawing. Why is it called Jennifer?
My name is Jennifer.
It's a strange name.
Not in Cornwall. I am Cornish. It's only what you call Guinevere.
Guinevere. Jennifer. Yes, it's really a wonderful drawing. Excuse me, may I ask, is it for sale? I'll buy it.
Oh, take it. It's my own. He gave it to me. Take it. Take them all. Take everything. Ask anything, but save him. You can. You will. You must.
Sir, they've just telephoned from the hospital that you're to come instantly. A patient on the point of death. The carriage is waiting.
Oh, nonsense. Get out. What do you mean by interrupting me like this?
But
can't you see I'm engaged? Be off!
Oh, right. Yes, of course.
Doctor, one instant only before you
No,
go.
sit down. It's nothing.
But the patient, he said he was dying.
Oh, he's dead by this time. Never mind. Sit down.
Oh, none of you care. You see people die every day.
No, nonsense. It's nothing. I told him to come in and say that. I thought I should want to get rid of you.
Oh.
Well, don't look so bewildered. There's nobody dying.
My husband is.
Ah, yes. I'd forgotten your husband. Mrs. Stupidat, you are asking me to do a very serious thing.
I am asking you to save the life of a great man.
You are asking me to kill another man for his sake. For as surely as I undertake another case, I shall have to hand back one of the old ones to the ordinary treatment. Well, I don't shrink from that. I've had to do it before. And I will do it again if you can convince me that his life is more important than the worst life I am now saving. But you must convince me first.
He made those drawings, and they are not the best, nothing like the best. Only I did not bring the really best. So few people like them. He is 23. His whole life is before him. Won't you let me bring him to you? Won't you speak to him? Won't you see for yourself?
Is he well enough to come to a dinner at the Star and Garter at Richmond?
Oh, yes, why?
I'll tell you. I'm inviting all my old friends to a dinner to celebrate my knighthood. You've seen about it in the papers, haven't you?
Yes, oh yes, that was how I found out about you.
It will be a doctor's dinner, and it was to have been a bachelor's dinner. I'm a bachelor. Now, if you will entertain for me and bring your husband, he will meet me, and he will meet some of the most eminent men in my profession. Sir Patrick Cullen, Sir Ralph Bloomfield Bonington, Cutler Walpole, and others. I can put the case to them, and your husband will have to stand or fall by what we think of him. Will you come?
Yes, of course I will come. Oh, thank you. Thank you. And may I bring some of his drawings, the really good ones?
Yes, I will let you know the date in the course of tomorrow. Leave me your address.
Thank you again and again. You have made me so happy. I know you will admire him and like him. This is my address.
Thank you. I'll ring for my housekeeper.
Oh, may I... Is there... Should I mean...
What's the matter?
Your fee for this consultation.
Oh, I forgot that. Shall we say... a beautiful drawing of his favourite model for the whole treatment, including the cure.
You are very generous. Thank you. I know you will cure him. Goodbye.
I will. Goodbye. By the way, you know, don't you, that tuberculosis is catching. You take every precaution, I hope.
I am not likely to forget it. They treat us like lepers at the hotels.
Well, dearie, have you got round him?
Yes, she has. Attend to the door, Emmy, and hold your tongue.
That's a good boy. Come along, dearie.
Well, consultation free. Cure? Guaranteed? We'll just go for some more.
Excellent dinner. Excellent.
Absolutely splendid evening.
Ah, Mrs. Dubedat, there you are.
Louis will be back presently. He is showing Dr. Blinkensop how to work the telephone.
Oh.
Oh, I am so sorry we have to go. It seems such a shame, this beautiful night. And we've enjoyed ourselves so much.
I don't believe another half hour would do Mr. Dubedat a bit of harm.
Oh, come now, Collie, come, none of that. You take your man home, Mrs. Dubedat, and get him to bed by 11.
Yes, bed before 11, quite right. Sorry to lose you, my dear lady.
Let me take you home in my motor.
No, you ought to be ashamed of yourself, Walpole. Your motor will take Mr. and Mrs. Dubedat to the station, and quite far enough, too, for an open carriage at night.
Oh, I am sure the train is best.
Well, Mrs. Dubedat, we have had a most enjoyable evening.
Oh, indeed. It's been splendid.
Unforgettable.
What did you think of Louis? Or am I wrong to ask?
Wrong? Why, we're all charmed with him.
Delighted.
Most happy to have met him. A privilege, a real privilege.
Sir Patrick, are you uneasy about him?
I admire his drawings greatly, ma'am.
Yes, but I
You
meant...
shall go away quite happy. He's worth saving. He must and shall be saved.
Certainly.
There's no real difficulty if only you know what to do.
Oh, how can I ever thank you? Oh, from this night I can begin to be happy at last. You don't know what I feel. Oh, I'm so sorry.
My dear lady, come. Come.
Oh, don't mind us. Have a good cry.
No, don't cry. Your husband had better not know that we've been talking about him.
No, of course not. Please don't mind me. Oh, what a glorious thing it must be to be a doctor. Don't laugh. You don't know what you've done for me. I never knew until now how deadly afraid I was, how I had come to dread the worst. I never dared let myself know, but now the relief has come. Now I know.
Now, Ginny Gwynny, the motor has come round. It's time to go.
Why do you let him spoil your beautiful name like that, Mrs. Dubedat?
Oh, on grand occasions I am Jennifer.
You are a bachelor. You do not understand these things, Ridgeon. Look at me. I also have two names. In moments of domestic worry, I am Simple Rafe. When the sun shines in the home, I am Beedle Deedle Dumpkins. Such is married life. Mr. Dubedat, may I ask you to do me a favour before you go? Will you sign your name to this menu card under the sketch?
Oh, yes, and mine too, if you'll be so good. I'll sign them for you with pleasure. I've just been making a little sketch of the river tonight. It will work up into something good. I think I'll call it the Silver Danube.
Oh, charming.
Very sweet. You're a nailer at pastel.
Oh, now then, Mr. Dubedat, you've had enough of the night here. Take him home, ma'am.
Yes, come, Louis.
Never fear, never mind. I'll make that cough all right.
We will stimulate the phagocytes. Good night, Mrs. Dubedat. Good night.
If the phagocytes fail, come to me. I'll put you right.
Good night, Sir Patrick. Happy to have met you.
Good night.
Good night, Sir Patrick.
Cover yourself up well. I don't think your lungs are made of iron because they're better than his. Good night.
Thank you. Thank you. Nothing hurts me. Good night.
Good night.
Delightful couple. Charming woman. Gifted lad. Remarkable talent. Graceful outlines. Perfect evening. Great success. Interesting case. Glorious night. Exquisite scenery. Capital dinner. Stimulating conversation. Restful outing. Good wine. Happy ending. Touching gratitude. Lucky region.
What's that? You calling me, BB?
No, only congratulating you on a most successful evening. Enchanting woman. Thorough breeding. Gentle nature. Refined cat.
Sorry to have left you like this, Ridgeon, but it was a telephone message from the police. They found a half-a milkman at our railway crossing with a prescription of mine in his pocket. Where's Mr. Dubedat?
Gone.
Gone?
Yeah, just this moment.
Oh, dear. Oh, perhaps I could overtake him. Would you excuse me?
He's in the motor, man. Miles off. You can't... It's no use.
They're really very nice people. He's almost as charming in his way as she is in hers. And there's no mistake about his being a genius. Oh, it's something to have got a case really worth saving. Somebody else will have to go. But at all events, it'll be easy to find a worse man.
How do you know?
Oh, come now, Sir Paddy, no growling. Here, have something more to drink.
No, thank you.
Do you see anything wrong with Dubedat, BB?
Oh, a charming young fellow. Besides, after all, what could be wrong with him? Look at him. What could be wrong with him?
There are two things that can be wrong with any man. One of them is a check, the other is a woman. Until you know a man's sound on both these points, you know nothing about him.
Ah, cynic.
He's all right as to the cheque, for a while, at all events. He talked to me quite frankly before dinner as to the pressure of money difficulties on an artist. He says he has no vices and is very economical, but that there's one extravagance he can't afford and yet can't resist, and that is dressing his wife prettily. So, I said, bang, plump out, let me lend you £20 and pay me when your ship comes home. And he was really very nice about it. He took it like a man. And it was a pleasure to see how happy it made him, poor chap.
But when was this, may I ask?
Well, when I joined you that time down by the river.
But, my dear Walpole, he'd just borrowed £10 from me.
What? There you are.
Well, it was really hardly borrowing, for he said heaven only knew when he could pay me. I couldn't refuse. It appears that Mrs. Dubedat has taken a sort of fancy to me.
Oh, no, it was to me.
Certainly not. Your name was never mentioned between us. He's so wrapped up in his work that he has to leave her alone a good deal. And the poor innocent young fellow, he has of course no idea of my position or how busy I am, actually wanted me to call occasionally and talk to her.
Well, that's exactly what he said to me.
Oh, pooh, really, no, I must say.
Now, look here, Richard, this is beginning to look serious.
Sorry, I'm so sorry.
Well, Blinkensop, did you catch him?
No, excuse my running away like that.
Anything the matter?
No, trifle. Well, something ridiculous, it can't be helped. Never mind.
Was it anything about Dubedat?
I ought to keep to myself, I know. I can't tell you, Ridgeon, how ashamed I am of dragging my miserable poverty to your dinner after all your kindness. It's not that you won't ask me again, but it's so humiliating. And I did so look forward to one evening in my dress clothes. They're still presentable, you see, with all my troubles left behind, just like old times.
Yes, but what has happened?
Oh, nothing. It's too ridiculous. I had just scraped up 4 shillings for this little outing, and it cost me 1 and 4pence to get here. Well, Dubedat asked me to lend him £0.50 to tip the chambermaid of the room his wife left her wraps in and for the cloakroom. He said he only wanted it for 5 minutes as she had his purse, so of course I lent it to him. He's forgotten to pay me. Just 2pence to get back.
Oh, no, never mind that.
No. I know what you're going to say, but I won't take it. I've never borrowed a penny, and I never will. I've nothing left but my friends, and I won't sell them. If none of you were to be able to meet me without being afraid that my civility was leading up to the loan of 5 shillings, there would be an end of everything for me. I'll take your old clothes, Collie, sooner than disgrace you by talking to you in the street in my own, but I won't borrow money. I'll train it as far as the tuppence will take me, and I'll tramp the rest.
You'll do the whole distance in my motor.
Ah, that's the answer.
Thank you.
Sir?
Hey?
I beg your pardon, sir. It's not about the hotel. Maids aren't allowed to be on the terrace, and I should be discharged if I was seen speaking to you, unless you were kind enough to say you called me to ask whether the motor has come back from the station yet.
Has it?
Yes, sir.
Well, what do you want, young woman?
Would you mind, sir, giving me the address of the gentleman that was with you at dinner?
Yes, of course I should mind very much. You have no right to ask.
Yes, sir. I know it looks like that, but what am I to do?
What's the matter with you?
Nothing, sir. I want the address, that's all.
You mean the young gentleman?
Yes, sir, that went to catch the train with the woman he brought with him.
The woman? Do you mean the lady who dined here? The gentleman's wife?
Don't believe them, sir. She can't be his wife. I'm his wife.
My good girl.
His wife?
I could run upstairs and get you my marriage lines in a minute, sir, if you doubt my word. He's Mr. Louis Dubedat, isn't he?
Yes.
Well, sir, you may believe me or not, but I'm the lawful Mrs. Dubedat.
And why aren't you living with your husband?
We couldn't afford it, sir. I had £30 saved, and we spent it all on our honeymoon in 3 weeks, and a lot more that he borrowed. Then I had to go back into service, and he went to London to get work at his drawing, and he never wrote me a line or sent me an address. I never saw nor heard of him again till I caught sight of him from the window going off in the motor with that woman.
Well, that's 2 wives to start with.
Now, upon my soul, I don't want to be uncharitable, but I'm really beginning to think that our young friend is rather careless.
Beginning to think? How long will it take you, man, to find out he's a damn young blackguard?
Oh, that's severe, Sir Patrick, very severe. Well, of course, it's bigamy, but still he's very young, and she's very pretty. Mr. Walpole, may I sponge on you for another of those nice cigarettes of yours?
Certainly. No bother. Oh, I say, I recollect now. I passed my cigarette case to Dubedat and he didn't return it.
Oh, no.
It was a gold one.
He didn't mean any harm. He never thinks about things like that, sir. I'll get it back for you, sir, if you'll tell me where to find him.
What am I to do? Shall I give her the address or not?
Give her your own address and then we'll see. You'll have to be content with that for the present, my girl. What's your name?
Minnie Tinwell, sir.
Well, you write to him a letter, care of this gentleman, and it'll be sent on. Now, be off with you.
Thank you, sir. I'm sure you wouldn't want to see me wronged. Thank you all, gentlemen, and excuse the liberty.
Well, do you realise, you chaps, we've promised Mrs. Dubedat to save this fellow's life.
What's the matter with him?
Tuberculosis.
Oh, can you cure that?
I believe so.
And I wish you'd cure me. My right lung is touched, I'm sorry to say.
What?
Your lung?
No,
Your
it's
lung?
no use. I know what you're going to say. I've said it often to others. I can't afford to take care of myself, and there's an end of it.
Well, Ridgeon? I see. Well, it's time for us all to move. Mr. Walpole, take Blinkensop home. He's had enough of the open-air cure for tonight. Now, do you have a thick overcoat to wear in the motor, Mr. Blinkensop?
Oh, they'll give me some brown paper in the hotel, and a few thicknesses of brown paper across the chest are better than any fur coat.
Well, come along. Good night, Collie. You're coming with us, aren't you, Bibi?
Oh, yes, I'm coming. Good night, my dear Ridgeon.
Good night.
Don't let us lose sight of your interesting patient and his very charming wife. We must not judge him too hastily, you know. Good night, Paddy. Bless you, dear old chap.
Yes.
Good night, good night.
Good night.
Good night. Good night.
Well, Mr. Saviour of Lives, which is it to be? The honest, decent man Blinkensop or that rotten blackguard of an artist, eh?
Not an easy case to judge, is it? Blinkensop's an honest, decent man, but is he any use? Dubedat's a rotten blackguard, but he's a genuine source of pretty and pleasant and good things.
And what will he be a source of for that poor innocent wife of his when she finds him out?
That's true. It would be simpler if Blinkensop could paint Dubedat's pictures.
It would be simpler still if Dubedat had some of Blinkensop's honesty. Now you've to hold the scales between Blinkensop and Dubedat. Hold them fairly.
Well, I'll be as fair as I can. You see, I'm not at all convinced that the world wouldn't be a better world if everybody behaved as Dubedat does than it is now that everybody behaves as Blinkensop does.
Then why don't you behave as Dubedat does?
Ah, that beats me. That's the experimental test. Still, it's a dilemma. It's a dilemma. You see, there's a complication we haven't mentioned.
Oh, what's that?
Well, if I let Blinkensop die, at least nobody can say I did it because I wanted to marry his widow.
Eh? What's that?
Now, if I let Dubedat die, I'll marry his widow.
Oh, perhaps she won't have you, you know.
Oh, I have a pretty good flair for that sort of thing. I know when a woman is interested in me. She is.
Well, sometimes a man knows best and sometimes he knows worst. You'd better cure them both.
I can't. I'm at my limit. I can squeeze in one more case, but not two. I must choose.
Well, you must choose as if she didn't exist. That's clear.
Is that clear to you? It's not clear to me. She troubles my judgment.
To me, it's a plain choice between a man and a lot of pictures.
In short, I'm to kill my patient.
Don't talk wicked nonsense. You can't kill him. But you can leave him in other hands.
In BB's, for instance?
Sir Ralph Bloomfield Bonington is a very eminent physician.
He is?
Yeah, I'm going for my hat. Good night.
Good night. Waiter, my bill, please.
This is LA Theatre Works' production of The Doctor's Dilemma by George Bernard Shaw. Our story continues in Hour 2. I'm Susan Loewenberg, producing director of LA Theatre Works.
This play is part of LA Theatre Works' Relativity Series of science-themed plays. Lead funding for the Relativity Series is provided by the Alfred P. Sloan Foundation, bridging science and the arts in the modern world.